Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Fish Creek. On the towering dragon pillar, Chinmu gazed upwards, his gaze piercing the vast sky. Dark clouds roiled and churned, expanding outward like a growing storm, a vast vortex of thunder and lightning. Bolts of lightning tore through the air, flashing like divine retribution as they spiraled around the eye of the storm. The clouds, dark and ominous, surged towards the front lines of the Eternal Peace Army. A sudden bolt of lightning struck the earth with a deafening roar, its sparks scattering like golden serpents, crackling as they spread. As the lightning rained down, it seemed as if the heavens themselves aimed their fury at the army below. The immense, thunderous power surged forth, like plows of destruction descending from the sky, cutting through the ranks of the Eternal Peace Empire's forces with devastating force. Boom, boom, boom! The ground quaked as lightning struck with deadly precision. The mighty behemoths, those towering beasts of war, were reduced to charred husks in the blink of an eye. Some exploded from the force of the strike, their bellies sliced open as if by the sharpest blade. Their agonized roars filled the air as they staggered in panic, trampling soldiers beneath their massive hooves in their wild flight. The lightning struck relentlessly, causing chaos to erupt across the battlefield. Soldiers, both footmen and cavalry, were thrown into disarray, and it was impossible to tell how many had perished in the inferno. A ship caught in the storm was struck repeatedly by bolts of lightning, setting it ablaze. Explosions rang out as the ship's furnaces erupted, igniting everything within. Apothecaries and assistants in the medicine room were consumed by the flames, their screams cut short as the inferno spread. The violent force of the lightning surged into the great furnace, overwhelming it with the medicinal energy stored within. The furnace exploded in a deafening blast, the ship disintegrating in an instant as it shattered into the sky, its remains falling to the earth in a cloud of smoke and debris. Other ships were not so lucky, their furnaces destroyed and propulsion lost. Without their engines, they plummeted to the ground, crashing down on soldiers who were unable to escape in time. Where once the Eternal Peace Empire's forces had marched with pride and determination, now only chaos and devastation remained. The battlefield was shrouded in confusion, the once glorious army now in disarray. General Liu, these thunderous clouds are most unusual. It's as though they are targeting our forces. A scout rushed forward, breathless, to deliver the report. Genuflecting, he spoke urgently. The storm clouds have covered a radius of 30 miles, yet beyond that there is nothing. No clouds in sight. General Liu, his imposing form unshaken by the turmoil around him, narrowed his eyes, a gleam of determination flashing. Summon the Wind Marquis troop. We shall blow these clouds away. Understood, General, came the immediate response. Orders were passed down the line, and soon soldiers bearing massive gourds appeared, each one a master of the wind. These warriors, draped in strange garb, placed their hands upon their gourds, their vital chi swirling as they opened the large bottlenecks. Black winds surged from the vessels, swirling upwards as they bent their fingers, directing the gusts toward the storm above. At that very moment, within the city, Def's second painting was completed, a masterpiece of swirling tornadoes and raging storms. With a single flick of his brush, the painting rose from the ground and soared into the sky, vanishing into the distance. The black wind whipped violently through the air, sweeping toward the thunderclouds. Yet, just as the Wind Marquis troop began their effort to dispel the storm, the heavens shifted. Tornadoes descended, twisting like the tails of divine dragons, their monstrous forms tearing through the clouds. Not one, but dozens of tornadoes shot down from the sky, merging with the black winds and amplifying their power. Soldiers were ripped from the ground, their limbs flailing helplessly as they were swept away into the churning sky. Then came the lightning, descending upon the helpless soldiers. Their bodies were charred in an instant, turning to ash and bone. It mattered not whether they were martial artists or practitioners of divine arts, none could withstand the onslaught of nature's fury. The storm raged on, lightning crashing down with renewed force, and rain began to pour, soaking the army through. The wet earth became an amplifier for the lightning's deadly power. Soldiers, drenched in the downpour, were helpless against the strikes that followed, their bodies seizing as they burned away in the blink of an eye. Monsters! Demons! How dare they defy us? General Liu roared in fury. His body shot into the air, rising above the chaos. His hands moved with precision as he struck at the tornadoes, smashing them apart with his overwhelming power. His armor glowed with radiant light, deflecting the deadly lightning that sought to strike him. The Black Tortoise troop, under his command, raised their shields with a unified shout. Their vital chi formed massive barriers, protecting the soldiers below from the storm. With the Black Tortoise shields held high, the lightning found no purchase, pacifying the morale of the troops. The officers quickly reorganized their forces, rallying the scattered soldiers and forcing them back into formation. In Border Dragon City, another painting took flight into the sky. The 100 Demons painting, dark and foreboding, filled the heavens with monstrous figures. Devil gods, fierce and terrifying, emerged from the storm clouds and began their brutal assault on General Lu's men. Amidst the chaos, General Lu's heart sank as he watched the nightmare unfold. And then, another painting emerged, a vision of falling meteors streaking across the heavens. "Fall back!" General Lu shouted in horror as the sky above shattered and blazing meteors rained down upon the army below. Only one man's paintings could defend against such might. The thought brings to mind a singular person. At the border of the great ruins, the Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, his long brows furrowing with a deep contemplative gaze, stood unmoved. Behind him, his generals remained silent, listening intently as he spoke. When the heavenly painting country fell, its crown prince, a man of unmatched talent, did nothing but lose himself in his art. He ignored the cries of his people, and when he finally awoke, the world had already turned against him. His kingdom was destroyed and his father slain. The generals listened in silence as the Imperial Preceptor continued. In his madness, the Crown Prince cut off his ears and used his blood to paint the 18 levels of hell. His country was lost, but his art became a legend. As the Preceptor spoke, the storm began to dissipate, the clouds and lightning vanishing like smoke before the ink of a master painter. The soldiers stood in stunned silence, their hearts gripped by the terrifying power of the mysterious sorcerer who had summoned the storm. "City Lord, a sorcerer is causing havoc in the city." The call came urgently as Qin Feiyue rushed to the City Lord's manor. Granny C, with her stern countenance, listened intently before replying coldly. "A sorcerer dares to defy me in my own city? This ends now." Without another word, she sped towards the bookstore, her steps leaving no trace. Behind her, Qin Feiyue followed, but by the time they arrived, the building was already empty. Granny C's face darkened, her voice booming like thunder. "Seal the city at once. Search high and low for the sorcerer. Gather everyone at the plaza. I want to see who dares to act under my watchful eyes." The warriors of the City Lord's manor rushed into action, sweeping through the streets and herding the citizens, including merchants, toward the central plaza. Qin Feiyue's brows furrowed as he scanned the crowd, the absence of the sorcerer troubling him, casting a shadow over his heart. "No need to worry, General Qin," Granny C reassured, her voice like a calm river despite the turmoil. "This is my city. Not a single demon or monster shall stir chaos here." The woman disguised as Fu Yundi smiled coldly. "Now that we've gathered everyone, no matter how elusive this sorcerer is, he won't escape my grasp. If necessary, bring the Imperial Army. The lawless creatures of the great ruins need a lesson in obedience. Speaking of which, I've heard much of the Imperial Preceptor's great deeds. I look forward to meeting him and hearing his wisdom firsthand." Qin Feiyue nodded, his unease simmering beneath the surface. "Rest assured, City Lord, the Imperial Preceptor is known for his fairness. With the great service you've rendered to the Eternal Peace Empire, your rise to nobility is assured. You won't have to endure this desolate place much longer." Granny C's laughter echoed through the halls, her voice brimming with pride. She paused before speaking, her tone turning cold. "Once I catch the sorcerer, I'll make him suffer a slow death. His head will adorn the city gate, a warning to all who dare defy me. By the way, General Qin, please do sing my praises to the Imperial Preceptor. Make it clear that the sorcerer's misdeeds were not of my doing." Qin Feiyue smiled knowingly. "I will certainly convey your deeds to the Imperial Preceptor, City Lord." Granny C's eyes gleamed, her voice low as she spoke again. "To be honest, in my years of ruling, I've accumulated many fine treasures. When the Imperial Preceptor arrives, I'd like to show them to you, General Qin. Perhaps you might take a liking to something. Qin Feiwei's heart stirred at the mention of treasures. The great ruins were rich with valuable artifacts, and Fuyundi, having governed this region for years, undoubtedly possessed many rare and mystical objects. The thought of visiting her treasure vault was an irresistible opportunity. Meanwhile, on the Dragon Pillar, Qin Mu's eyes widened in awe as Def wielded his paintings as divine arts. From a young age, Qin Mu had studied calligraphy and painting, but witnessing Def's divine arts firsthand was an experience like no other. With a single man standing against the might of an entire army, Def's power was nothing short of extraordinary. Could that be Mu'er atop the pillar? Butcher's voice cut through his thoughts. Looking down, Qin Mu saw the towering figure of Butcher, his pig-slaughtering knives flashing as he made his way up the Dragon Pillar. "What's going on, Grandpa Butcher?" Qin Mu asked, perplexed. "I'm setting my divine arts to destroy the Dragon Pillar," Butcher replied, his tone heavy with purpose. "When the Eternal Peace Army enters, my divine arts will ignite at nightfall. The pillar will shatter, and my knives will obliterate it." The vanguard of the Eternal Peace Army, having taken great losses from Def's divine arts, was now joined by the 2nd Division. Their combined strength pressed forward toward the city. Qin Mu's heart skipped a beat. "Grandpa Butcher is going to use the darkness to wipe out the Eternal Peace Army?" Butcher nodded, his voice grave. "I've already placed my divine arts in the other Dragon Pillars. Only this one remains." Qin Mu shuddered at the thought. If the Dragon Pillars were destroyed in the dead of night, a catastrophe would unfold for the Eternal Peace Army. The horrors that awaited them would be unimaginable. "Grandpa Butcher, what about the people in the city?" Qin Mu's voice trailed off, concern rising in his chest. Butcher's lips curled into a grin. When Def struck the army earlier, Granny C sealed the city and gathered everyone at the plaza. The ancient temples there will protect them from the darkness invasion. Qin Mu's worries eased slightly. The city plaza, surrounded by temples, would indeed form a safe haven for the civilians. It was clear that Granny Sai and Def had devised this plan together, and when the pillars collapsed, the temples would shield the people from harm. As night falls, the Eternal Peace Army will be obliterated, Butcher continued with a grin. Only a few of their strongest will manage to escape. That's when we'll have our final showdown. Qin Mu felt a shiver of anticipation. So the village chief will be here too? But of course, Butcher chuckled. We'll see the strongest sword then clash with the strongest sword now. I can hardly wait for the night to come. Suddenly, Butcher's expression turned to one of shock. What in the hell is that? Qin Mu followed his gaze and froze. In the distance, a tiny black dot appeared, growing larger by the moment. It was coming from Star C, 70 miles away from Border Dragon City. What the hell? Butcher's expletives filled the air as he leaped into the sky, moving with unprecedented urgency. Stay put. I need to find village chief, apothecary, and the others. I've never seen anything like this in the Great Ruins. Damn! Qin Mu watched in confusion as Butcher rushed off, his mind spinning. The tiny black dot was now growing exponentially, becoming a massive dark blotch in the sky. As it swelled in size, the ground trembled beneath them. Qin Mu felt the earth shaking, a heat radiating from the approaching mass, as if it were the scorching sun burning the land, even though it was still spring. Finally, the object came into view, a massive ship, floating ominously toward them. It was not just any ship, but a ship made from towering volcanoes, spewing smoke and flame into the clouds, lightning dancing across the skies. Its form was strange, with no peaks to its mountains, only palaces of gold shining through the smoke. The ship was tethered to a colossal black sphere by enormous chains, the air vibrating with every movement. The ground shook with each step of the ship, the heat intensifying with its approach. The Great Ruins' surging river began to boil, fish and monsters leaping from the water in fear. Qin Mu's eyes widened as realization struck him. The Sun Ship!